How's it going, everyone? I want to bring you guys a bunch of updates and news on Helldivers 2, specifically some stuff the CEO has said in regards to the future of the game. Definitely want to talk about it and want to give my input. I think they are going in the right direction, and some of the things he said I did see get a little bit of pushback, but I think he made a lot of sense in regards to how they want to update the game, working on fixes as well as content updates at the same time. Guys, if you think they should just prioritize fixing the game, we are at a stage where they've got to do both at the same time. They've got to roll out content updates as well, and I'll explain that once we get to it. But before we get into the talk, if you have yet to pick up Helldivers 2, remember our good friends at Green Man Gaming do have the game discounted. Just add it to your card, use the code SPRING15 and you'll save 15%. You'll pay $34, no tax. You'll get a Steam key. You'll redeem it on Steam and you'll be good to go. You got a copy of Helldivers 2, whether you want to play it, whether you want to get a buddy on it, whatever the deal is, go check out Divers 2. You can also get the Super Citizen Edition if you do want. Alright, so let's talk about the news. Right off the top, I do want to note that Arrowhead has said that Sony doesn't force anything in Helldivers 2 development, and they are also noting they want to make the best live service game ever, which is something that obviously every developer wants to do the best ever in whatever field that they're in, but Helldivers 2 certainly, I think, can make a claim for the best live service game ever in terms of being a live service title that is monetized. And that kind of goes without saying, that's the whole idea of a live service game, but it's a game that is quality but also respects the player's time and money if they choose to spend it. It was noted we want to deliver the best in the industry and we are calibrating our efforts of fixing versus new stuff. It's easy to say just fix, don't add, but the reality of the competitiveness in this industry is that we have to do both to stay relevant. We'll talk about that a little bit more. We are figuring it out. The demands and expectations of the studio is high. All eyes are on us and we have a sole purpose to make it the best live service game you've ever played. We just need to find our stride and balance. It's a hot topic at the studio and I'm sorry for the sloppy mistakes we've made as of recent. Also, he noted that the gaming industry is a complicated beast and added that they need to make sure the player base is entertained while they are fixing stuff. The studio wants to squash any ideas that Sony is making them do certain things. Also, my intention was just to say that the games industry is a complicated beast. We need to stay relevant and keep everyone entertained while fixing stuff. The expectations from our friends at PlayStation are pretty simple. Make great games for players. We trust you. Nobody is forcing us, but at the same time, the pressure is real. It's very abstract. So there's a lot to dissect within that statement. So let's first talk about fixing versus new stuff. There are issues with Helldivers 2. There are issues that seemingly get rolled out with every patch that drops, every major patch, or even the smaller patches that rolls out. I feel like I see people talking about, why is the game crashing now? Why is there X problem, Y problem? That has originated from the patch itself. So a patch will fix a lot of things, change some things, balance some things, and then at the same time, it seems like every now and again, it'll roll out crashes for some people, which obviously is not the intention. So it almost feels like they're constantly stuck on this hamster wheel of fixing things, but at the same time, while fixing things, breaking other things, and then updating things and breaking things in the process. So again, you're going into this revolving cycle, and things are certainly getting better and better. When this game initially came out, outside of server issues, I feel like there were more problems, and I definitely noticed more problems at the initial stages of release than there are now, but certainly experiences vary from person to person. The console experience seems to be relatively stagnant, but I'm playing on PC most of the time. And you're talking about my configuration being wildly different than my boy's configuration, and his configuration being different than your configuration, and so on and so forth. So there is quite a bit of nuance, and they are focused on fixing things. But guys, we are 2 months into the release of the game. This comes the real struggle. This is the hard part, to sustain player interest, because guess what happens if you're just focusing on fixing things? The game is still playable. The game is absolutely playable at this stage of the game. So let's just say they paused all content updates and everybody was tasked to fix something, which doesn't really make all the sense. Some people are going to be specialized in fixing certain issues, and then other people are going to be specialized in working on new content. But for the sake of argument, let's say they just focused on fixing things. The issue you now bring to the table is you're not rolling out new content, you're fixing things, but at the same time, people are still able to play the game, so they're gonna be finishing up with the content. They're gonna cycle through the content. A little bit of redundancy is gonna get there. And at the end of the day, this is a live service game. And what have I said over and over again? The aspect of a live service game. It lives and dies by player engagement. You need to have the player invested into these games. And how are you gonna do that if you're just fixing things while people are playing the games and suddenly there are no new content rollouts? It's something that you absolutely have to manage. Obviously, at the initial stages of the game was literally broken and servers were down and it was near impossible to play the game at times. But we are not at that level anymore. There are fixes to be made, but you have to roll out new things, and we are at that window where now it's been north of 2 months since the game has come out. You've got to roll out new content, and if you want to keep the players engaged, that's how you're gonna do it. And again, this is where the really hard struggle of a live service game begins. It's one thing to peak at a certain level of players. There are so many games that come out with a heightened level of interest, and how much is that interest sustained? Right now, Helldivers 2 has done a really solid job of sustaining that interest, because while it peaked at well over 400,000 players, it is still hovering around the 180,000 player range. And you can say, hey, that's over a 50% decline. Having just over a 50% decline from the peak, that is a gigantic W for a game, especially when you're still stabilizing at over 180k or around that range. You know, 180 to 200k, incredibly successful number, but you want to stay within that range. If you fall a little bit, it's one thing, but you don't want to fall and fall and fall, and to make sure you don't fall and fall and fall, fixes are a part of it. You want to make the game suitable, but it is playable at this stage. You gotta roll out compelling content and reason for people to jump back into the game. So keeping the game engaging has to be at the heart of the situation right now, and you gotta make sure people are engaged if you want a live service game to be prosperous in the long run. And you're talking about a game that is rolling out monthly war bonds, that they are gonna do consistent content updates, and now the trajectory of the game has completely shifted. They could do so much more with Helldivers 2 in totality in terms of it being a much bigger game than what it initially was, because it has exceeded, far beyond exceeded initial expectations. So that is exciting, but at the same time, they've exceeded those initial expectations. They have to sustain that level of interest as well. And, you know, being the best live service game ever, lofty goal to have. We'll see if they hit that goal, but at the end of the day, that's going to be a subjective opinion that's going to vary from person to person. Really, their goal, and I believe this is their ultimate goal, is to just sustain player interest and make sure they're offering a compelling game all the time. And the idea of Sony getting involved with this game, they're not going to get involved with something that is a success. They've already seen Arrowhead, the proof is in the pudding. They've delivered something of high quality with Helldivers 2. They've exceeded all expectations. Why would Sony come in at this point and be like, let's go F around with it and mess around with it? I don't think Sony is gonna come in and be like, hey, you guys gotta monetize the game more. Why aren't you guys selling more cosmetics? Why aren't you guys doing this and this and this to make more money? I really think at this point, Sony's gotta be more than pleased with the game. And again, we talk about managed democracy when it comes to Helldivers 2. Let's have some managed greed as well. A reason this game is successful is because the monetization is relatively lenient. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg, nor are they asking you. You can pay $40 for the game and ultimately get all the content for free, or, you know, and get the bulk of the content for free by just playing the game. Let's have some managed greed. The game's been wildly successful. I think PlayStation is going to look at it from that lens as well and be like, hey, we got a success. They know what they're doing. Why intervene? Now, if the game succeeded at one level, let's say it peaked at 400,000 players, and at this point, 2 months later, and it was down to, let's say, 3,000 concurrent daily players, okay, then it would be a little bit different, but they're at 180,000, and by the way, that's only a Steam number. There's people playing on PlayStation 5 as well. That's an incredibly successful number, and some of you guys are gonna be like, that's still a 50% drop-off from the peak. Dropping off 50% into 180k concurrently, huge success. That's not something to be disappointed at. That's something to be very happy about, because there's games that peak at 400,000 or 500,000 players. A couple months later, you know, they're sub 100, sub 50k players even. So in this situation, they've done a good job of sustaining player interest. But that's gonna do it for me. We got lots to cover in this video, and give you guys my opinions as well. Again, if you do want to check out the game, go check out Green Man Gaming with Helldivers 2. Use the code SPRING15 and you'll save 15%. Get it for $34. But that's gonna do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.